Alright, YouTube and Chainsaw Shack. Brody here with you. Of the Chainsaw Shack. We're here, we're going to try out this new Farmer Tech grinder, and I'm going to show you how to work a grinder properly in proper terminology, because apparently there's a lot of that lacking on YouTube. First of all, this is a Farmer Tech, and it is a copy of the Technomac, the Oregon, the Timber Tough. There's not really any difference in this grinder compared to the other ones, other than the color and a few small differences. I'll have you take a look at this, give you a good look at it from all angles. So I'm going to briefly go over this real quick and explain to you how you would adjust this. Your first thing to adjust would be your tilt. You got your adjustment back here. I'm running at 55 because I like to have a little more hook in my tooth, and I'm trying to do that with this grinder. So I would set it right here. You got your, I don't know if I can see it, there's an arrow back here, and it points to on here on your gauge to where it's 55, and that's where I've got it set at. That will give me my tilt to the side, and then I'll tighten this back up and lock this into where it's supposed to be. Our next adjustment is right here, and this controls your up and down for how far this will come down. Now, some people will adjust that because they're afraid of cutting into the tie strap on the side there of the link, and grinding too far. I don't set mine, I freehand it because I know better than to push so far down into there that I'm cutting into the tie strap. So, but I can adjust this to where it will only let me go down so far, and I'm going to exaggerate it there. You see, that's not letting me even go all the way down and bottom out right there because I have it adjusted there. You can adjust that. That'll keep you from getting into the tie strap. And then your next adjustment would be your angle of whatever you're gonna for your teeth. Oregon's at 25-degree angle. Steels come at 30. Some people experiment and change the angles and all that. I don't pretty much do that. I pretty much stick with 25 on the Oregon and 30 on the steel change. I mean, you can change it a little bit if you want to go 30. I suppose you can, on your Oregon chains. Some people go all the way up to 35 on their chains on this angle. All you're going to do is cause the chain to, dull faster the steeper that angle is. But okay, we got that angle set. The next thing we move to, and all these grinders are basically the same. They all have the same settings. All does the same thing. This here screws in and out. This is your lock nut. I would screw this all the way down. I'm leaving it loose right now, but I'll go ahead and move it down. But that screws into this and pushes on this, and this controls how far this stop comes against this cutter. That way you can control how far back into the tooth you're hitting. See, if you look right now, it's not really hitting the tooth. I know you can't see that, but you can notice it's not catching the tooth. You want to move this in just enough to start catching the tooth. You don't want to take too much off at one time. If you take too much off, you have risk of bluing the cutter. Okay, now I'm there. I'm going to take a little less off. This chain's already sharp. I'm only doing this for demonstration purposes. So, you loosen that up before we adjust this. You want to have this free, unlike what I just did. So now that's too far. If you see, it's not letting the grinder go down. It's on top of the cutter. It's not far enough forward. It's too far back. We're going to grind too much away. So we're going to take a little more off of this, loosen this up, let it slide back. Make sure the chain is pulled back against the stop right here. Tighten this down and check it again. Still not enough. So we're going to move it back a little bit more. We'll loosen this up some here. We'll roll this chain back. We'll tighten that up and we'll check it. She's really close there. I want to go a little more. Like I said, I'm not trying to take too much off in this one, even though I suggest you don't take a lot off at one time. That way you don't blue your cutter. And I'll make sure that's against the back of this backstop. The cutter is against the stop. That's not a blade, that is a cutter. People saying blade are noobs. They're amateurs, and they don't know their terminology, and they're winging it just like you are. They really don't know what they're talking about. So that's one of the pet peeves I have of watching some videos now. And go a little more back. Let's see if I got that right there. That's probably enough where I can at least demonstrate what I want to show you. Kind of tighten the lock nut up on here. This is the lock nut. Tighten that up and it'll hold you in position so you don't lose your adjustment. And you make sure this cutter is all the way against the stop. Then you can tighten this up here that clamps your chain down, and then you're ready. So here we go. I'm going to show you this. Those are your adjustments on this. This is how you do this. So I'm going to turn this on and let you watch this. I'll bring this down. I'll be lightly kissing it. Bring it up. Hit it a couple times. Don't dwell on it and hold it on the cutter. Don't push it in so hard that you tie into the tie strap down here. And you notice my cutter's not hot. I can touch that without burning my finger because I didn't grind into this or try to grind too much off at one time. You try to grind too much off at one time, you overheat the cutter and you ruin it. You'll pull all the carbon to the front of the tooth and make the tooth brittle and blue, and it'll ruin it. You just want to lightly kiss it and you're done. And then all you got to do is pull your chain forward, skip your one tooth, because you're going to go to the other side when you get done. You'll tighten this back up and you'll hit it again. Just like that. It's that simple. Don't need to you want to hold it on there forever. And you don't want to push it down so hard. You're pushing in the tie strap. And if you're really worried about that, you can, adjust your depth in the back where I showed you it's at to stop it where it doesn't grind into the tie strap, the plate. Now, to do the other side, all you would do is loosen this right here on the bottom. Then you can slide this over to here, and we'll just set it right for 25 again. Tighten this up so it doesn't move. And then it's the same thing as the other side. We'll loosen this up, pull this forward, lock it in. We'll set our backstop so the cutter is against the backstop, and this wheel just comes down and lightly kisses the cutter. This needs adjusted in to get this side. We'll check it a little more. You can see it pushing the cutter when I do that. Now she's starting to touch the tooth. And we'll tighten up. We just want to barely touch that tooth too. We're not trying to grind into it a whole bunch. We just want to take a little bit off, just enough to make the chain sharp again, where the top plate has got a good edge on it, and you can't see no shine on the edge where the edge is dull. So it would work the same way. We turn this back on now. Make sure this is tight, and we come down here and just lightly kiss the chain again. And make sure this is tight. And that's all there is to this. Now I'm gonna shut this off. Always wear glasses and goggles on this because these cutter wheels can explode. You don't want this metal in your face. And you want to dress your wheel at times when if this gets dirty or this has a round shape, and when it's spinning, you want to work the grinding stone around that and round this back off so it pretty much matches, you know, what a file would look like, the rounded part. They give you a gauge to check this with so you can get your shape, as you can see right there. That's what you're looking. Let me get that right there. You can see you'll get your shape with that. That's what this is for. I'll let you look at that. So that is that, and that's how simple this is. And you would just go through, make sure your stop is right for each cutter. And once you get that done, then you can worry about checking rakers. Your rakers have to be set for each individual tooth. Your teeth, I should say, are generally not all the same length, all the same size, because a lot of times some need to be sharpened more or filed more, because sometimes I file, sometimes I grind. I usually grind when I've hit something, because it's a lot more filing than I want to do when you damage a chain. Grinders are great for that. Grinders are great for speed. You can achieve favorable results with a grinder or with a file. Some guys are going to say file's better, and you know what? Both will do favorable results. If you're using the machine correctly or the file correctly, you will achieve great results. So the BS about, you know, it should only be filed, learn how to file, don't listen to those guys. They're just trolls, and they're not somebody you want to take advice from. So that's all there is to that. And we'll talk about this grinder a little bit more. This came from Jess Ray. I'll give you a better look at this grinder. He is a U.S. dealer in the chainsaw shack that deals farmer tech and sells chainsaws. You can contact him through the chainsaw shack, and he will ship you out a saw fast and, you know, efficient. And you can deal with farmer tech in the U.S. instead of waiting for something overseas to get shipped to you. And you also got some dealer support there when you buy. And he's a great guy. I've dealt with him. He shipped me some saws. He shipped me this to try out and evaluate. It is just like the Technomech, just like the Oregon. I can't find any differences. I was over at my buddy's earlier and looked at his Oregon and compared it to this. It's the same thing, but it works great. It's got a light that comes on to help you see what you're doing. You see that light came on, and it helps you cut, to help you see when you're cutting your cutters. So, and again, this chainsaw bar and chain is a bar and chain. It is not a blade. These teeth are not blades, they are cutters. You know, be wary of anybody calling it a blade, because they don't know what they're talking about, and they're an amateur newbie. No offense, but they are. And each one of these rakers, after you get done, should be checked with a Raker gauge. If you're just setting it by one, well, this one here, you know, you set your stop, because you can zero this out. Well, this thing is up and down 90 degrees, and then grind your cutter, but I don't do it on these, but you can do it. And then you can grind your Raker, your depth gauge down to where it's supposed to be. You know, I don't use it. I don't use that feature, but you need to check each individual tooth, because each tooth is different length, so that's going to give you a different Raker height all the way through. Now this one just sticks up a little bit, and I got it on the hard side. It's got a hard and a soft. You would use it, set it for soft. It's going to go deeper when you cut soft wood, and then hard won't go as deep when you're cutting hardwood, and you don't need, you know, that many thousandths taken off your Raker. The reason why you check each Raker individually and not try to do them all one time with the same setting on here is your saw will cut crooked. Your depth gauges control your saw, your chain. If it cuts, you know, from cutting crooked and sideways, it controls the depth of the cut. The teeth do not have to be the same length. You could have almost all the teeth off of one side and almost new on the other side. As long as the Raker height is all set the same, that chain will cut straight. It has zero to do with your teeth length. And there's a lot of people claiming that, and it's BS too. That's more bullshit. You want to set your raker height with a raker gauge. And you know, I heard another guy on YouTube, I told him, you know, you got to set each raker, man. You can't just go through and grind every one of them after you set it for one and figure the rest are going to need the same. It doesn't work that way. You know, he's in a hurry and he don't have time for that. Well, I'm pretty sure his chain probably cuts crooked, and you're affecting the performance of the chain. You know, that's getting the cutter sharp is half the battle, and having them rakers and drags set right correctly is the other half of the battle. So you want to get a raker gauge and set those rakers. So I'm going to sign off. I want to thank Jess Ray of sending me this to evaluate and use it, and I'm gonna use this more and get some more video out of me sharpening chains. Right now I have nothing to sharpen because I keep all my chains sharpened. I retired the Harbor Freight grinder I had, which was over here. This is the old one right here, and I had no problem. I achieved the same thing with it. It has the same settings. You know, the angle is fixed in the back. You can't control the tilt, but it has the stop back here. You control, you know, you set your angle here for your 20, 25, and 30. And the clamp here is not here, it's up here. You got a brake handle here, and it clamps it down, which I really like, because then you can drop it down, grind it, let it go just like that, and you slide your chain forward. If you have this adjusted right here, right, the adjustment up here, right, this will hold your chain steady and it will not move. I hear people complain about it rotating or moving on them when they try to grind it. You don't have this set right. If it's not working right, it's not set right. That's your big thing. And then it's the same thing. You don't want to push too hard. You don't want to try to take too much off. This is your stop. It works just like the stop on the other one. You move it in and out right here. You put this against the back of your cutter for how far back your grinding wheel is going to touch the teeth. So there's that. I'm going to sign off. This is Brody gone. Thanks for watching. Thanks out there in the chainsaw shack. Thanks on YouTube. I'm gone.